coding text editor brackets, and also how to get set up for your first website that you will use for the first project now that you've learned HTML and CSS through Codecademy. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to go ahead and download Brackets. So if you want to go to brackets.io, that's the main website to download Brackets. Once you're here, you'll just want to click on the download Brackets. Just make sure it's the OS X option, meaning the Macintosh operating system, because that's what you guys will use on the computers at school. So you can go ahead, download that. Once you've downloaded Brackets, you can go ahead and open it up. And so this is the main Brackets screen. Now, Brackets has a couple of cool features, and it's the reason why you're going to use it in class. But some of the cool features are, for instance, this lightning bolt in the top right corner here. That allows you to live project or to live update your code in a web browser, preferably Google Chrome. So when for instance, when you have your code typed out and you're ready to test it out, you simply click on the lightning bolt, and that will open up your website to test and debug and go through the process. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is, once you've opened up Brackets, we want to create two new files. We don't have to save or name them yet, but we want to create two new files. One will be your HTML file, and then one will be your CSS file. So once you've opened up these two files and you have Brackets open, you can go ahead and minimize that, come to your desktop, and now we want to create a folder that will hold all of the necessary files that have to do with your website. So the first thing we'll do is we'll create a new folder. And once you have that folder created, you can give it whatever name that you like. You can call it website, whatever you prefer. Then we'll go back into Brackets. We'll click on the first file, and we'll save it right now before we have anything done. So we'll click File, Save, and we'll make sure to save this into your new folder. So go to Desktop, and the folder that I created was untitled. And so we're going to name this file index.html. It's an HTML file. Now for the next one, we'll go ahead and we'll save this as our HTML file, or as our CSS file. I'll save. Make sure we select the same folder. Mine's untitled. And I'm going to call this one styles.css. Okay, so now we have our two files set up. We have them saved in the same folder, and so we're ready to start typing in some code. So the first thing we'll do is we'll set up our HTML file like we normally would. Remember, if you ever forget any of the code or anything that's confusing, just Google it. Google the answers. Make sure, as always, that you're indenting properly so that when your websites start to get more complex, or your games or whatever it is, it's much easier to go back and troubleshoot and debug. Your code will be much more cleaner and easier to read. Alright, so here I have my HTML file set up properly. I have the doc type, HTML tag, and inside that I have my head, title, and body. Now if I were to save this and go test it out, I wouldn't see anything because I haven't put any code in yet. So the first thing and the most important thing is we want to link our HTML file to our CSS file. So I don't have that memorized on the top of my head, so I left Codecademy open over here, and I'm simply going to copy their code right from the website. You copy it from the video here into yours, and we're going to put that right inside of my head tags. Now it's here, my styles. We have the text CSS, it's a style sheet, and then the link, the href here, is going to link to styles.css, which is the same name of my file. Now you want to make sure that this file here has the same exact name as the file that you want it to grab when it starts to run. So you want to make sure that this name here matches up with the name of your CSS file. So we're good to go here. So now that that's linked, anything that I stylize in my website in the CSS file should show up. So just to get started with something simple, I'll put a quick little paragraph here inside my body just to make sure that everything is working. And then inside of my CSS file, I'll modify the paragraph. So let me give it some color, say blue. We'll say font size 48. Now, anytime you're in brackets and anytime you want to test out a file, you need to make sure that it's saved. If it's not saved, the computer won't be able to grab the latest file, and what you've just created won't show up accurately in the website. So as a little hint here, brackets will show a little circle next to any file that hasn't been saved. So you've made a change and it hasn't been saved yet. So the quickest way to do that, in the shortcut, the hotkey on the Macintosh, would be Command S. So Command S, save my style sheet. Command S, save my index.html file, and we should be good to go. We should be able to test this out to see that we've made some progress. So, like I said, one of the coolest features about brackets is that they have this lightning bolt feature, which will launch your HTML web page live on a website. So we'll go ahead and see if this paragraph shows up and that it's stylized the way that we want it. So click on the lightning bolt. And so there it is. So it launched right there, live into the website, which is great. So that worked out. Now, another cool feature is this connection to this website is always live. So if I were to go here and I were to just type something else in here, and I save it, it automatically changes over here on my website. Now that's very useful for as you build onto your website. You're going to want to take your time, continually test it to make sure that it's working. You want to avoid a situation where you type out a bunch of code and then you go to try to test it, because then if it doesn't work, now you're going to have to sift through much more code to try and debug and find out what's wrong. Whereas if every time you make a serious change, you then just look at it and confirm that it's working on the browser itself. So just a little tip there as your code becomes more complex. Now, one of the cool things about Chrome itself, and the reason why I suggest that you use it when you launch your websites, is because they have a great JavaScript console. Now, this won't be particularly helpful now, but I figured this is a good time to introduce it to you. So when you're in Chrome and once you start using JavaScript, maybe making a game or an app, you're going to want to figure out if the code is wrong or not. And there's a helpful tool to help isolate and to find coding errors. And so if you're in the Chrome browser, you notice at the top here, top right corner, there's these 3 dashed lines. If you click on that and you go down to Tools, hover over Tools, and then go down to JavaScript Console, and down here, this is an excellent way to see what's working, see what is making up your page, what files were loaded, that sort of thing. So if I were to come to Elements, so there's my code right here. And the cool thing about it is that as I highlight over something in my code, it highlights over what that element is on the actual web page up here. So really handy. And then if you go over to Network and you refresh the page, we see that our HTML file was linked as well as the CSS file. So very handy for debugging. Now, like I said, this will be more applicable when you start using jQuery or JavaScript. So you'd actually be able to see errors in the code if there were any. But this is just a good opportunity to show you that nice JavaScript debugging feature in Google Chrome. So now that you've been able to set up your brackets file, you should have an HTML file set up, you should have a CSS file. You're going to want to go onto X2, and under the website project category in your gradebook, you're going to want to open up and download the document for your first major project. So the first project here is to build a complete website from scratch. So Most importantly, I want to make sure that you include everything that I added here. The website can be about anything that you want, anything that you have an interest in. This is just what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for proper setup of an HTML document. You're using proper tabbing, proper nesting. You're able to add in paragraphs, divs, images, links, using an HTML ID, an HTML class, and then once you have your HTML file set up, then modify it with CSS. So that means modifying these following elements here, and then making sure that you include these kind of modifications. So align text, maybe add color, background color, margins, paddings, whatever it is. So go ahead and get this off of X2, and you can get started on your first project.